Thank you very much for being with us today, Mickey Sweeney. Mickey, I'm going to let Mickey do the talking, but Mickey was a former teacher, according to what I could learn, of over 40 years. We came upon Mickey because our granddaughter and her husband were at the Butterfly House a few months back, and they know that we love music here and said, hey, Grandma, we have somebody you need to bring to Mason Pointe. And Mickey was good enough to say she'd come. She has performed, we noticed, or Dan and I, we were listening to music in Hope Lutheran Church, which we are familiar with. And a big important thing, I understand you are the reigning champion as of 2023 in the whole United States on the hammered dulcimer. And then, Mary, thank you. Please, everybody, silence your phones. And it's Mickey's turn.
To be here. Thank you very much. This is a hammered dulcimer. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the hammered dulcimer. Oh, nice. Yeah, lots of people. Basically, it's a naked piano. So these are the hammers. So that the piano is in mechanized hammered dulcimer. This did predate the piano in Europe. It had its birth probably between 900 and 1500 in the Persia area and quickly migrated to Europe. There are versions of this hammered dulcimer in Asia, in Persia, in different parts of Europe, in South America, and this is what we have in the United States. This one is as big as they come. It's 5 octaves. So piano is 8 octaves. This is 5 octaves, mostly because there's a limit to how far you can reach and how much you can carry. It has 122 strings. Yes, it's really fun to tune. But it's very fun to play, and it's worth the hassle of tuning it. So thank you for coming out to see me. You probably recognized one of those two songs that I was playing. It was a medley of Will the Circle Be Unbroken and I'll Fly Away. Those two are so similar. I intend to kind of mix them up, but sometimes, like this time, it gets more mixed up than I intend because they're just almost the same in a couple places, and I just go off the wrong rabbit hole. So the hammered dulcimer is a very versatile instrument. It can play many different styles. Most people play old-time music, fiddle tunes and so forth, but I wasn't raised with that somehow. I just didn't get into that world. So I play a lot of classical music. I play Celtic music. You'll find me at the St. Augustine Celtic Festival in March. And I play folk tunes and a lot of hymns because I play in church. So next I'd like to switch gears a little bit and switch hammers. The sound that you get out of this can vary from a harp sound to piano sound to a kind of a harpsichord sound that you'll hear next by using harder hammers. This is a medley of Minuet in G, which you will recognize by Bach. And about 100 years later, James Hook wrote a hornpipe. Both of these are formalized dances, so nobody ever danced to them, but the composers really liked the style, so that's what it is, a minuet and then a hornpipe. And you probably noticed that I have a foot pedal down here, and there was a little bit different sound. These are dampers added to this instrument. Not all hammered dulcimers have them, but it does add a little bit different texture to it. They work the opposite of piano dampers. On a piano, the damper is against the strings. It comes off briefly when you hit a note, and then if you press the pedal, it stays off. On a hammered dulcimer, there's no damper touching the string, so it's very resonant. It's as if you had the pedal on the piano down the whole time. And then when I press the pedal for the damper here, it puts the dampers down and you get a muted, muffled sound. Instead of, so that's what's going on with that. So yes, I won the national competition this past September. It was in Winfield, Kansas. People say, was it fun? Well, maybe. It was terrifying. I always get so nervous, and when you're playing in front of judges, it gets really crazy. But the one I'm playing next is one of the pieces that I chose. It's entitled Ash Grove, which is a folk song, and it was written in somewhere in Scotland, Ireland, England area. It migrates a little bit, but it's also in the Lutheran hymnal, known as "Let all things now living and sent forth by God's Spirit." So you may recognize it from any one of those areas. Ash Grove. judged on at the competition is originality. And so what you generally do is take a melody and make your own arrangement out of it. So that was an example of a familiar melody that I added stuff to, and I'm always fascinated with the many different moods that you can get out of one little melody. The next one, however, is a totally original composition. It came out of one morning when I had my breakfast down on my kayak paddling around the lake. It was originally called Two Muffins on a Kayak. So somebody suggested maybe reflections would be a better word. So this is reflections on a kayak. So maybe it'll bring an image to you of the sun shining in the water and the paddle going back and forth, or maybe just your favorite place. Reflections on a kayak. It's also probably the hardest one that I play. So sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't. That was most of the notes. Back to classical, this is a piece that's often requested in weddings, and I know you'll recognize it. Back to Bach, Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring. So we're going to change gears. Next, one of my very favorite songs. It's in my category of happy songs that I get to play at night when just finish out the night. It was written back in the 30s and sold to Jimmy Davis, who was running for governor. He used that as his theme song, and he actually won governor's race in Louisiana. You are my sunshine. You are my sunshine. They have two sides. I gotta make sure I got both of them. Thank you. I'd like to play a couple of Celtic pieces for you. These are from the set that I played at the Celtic Festival in St. Augustine. That's the place that I first saw a dulcimer. Never seen one in my entire long life until 6.5 years ago. And it was absolutely love at first sight. So I talked to the guy who was playing it for more than half an hour, and I determined that within a year I was going to have me my own dulcimer. Well, a couple weeks later, I'm thinking there's got to be a place here that I can go get a dulcimer. And I went to Music Folk down on Webster Grove, and I went in there, and the gentleman who was helping me buy it, that played in St. Augustine, is saying, "Oh, just get the one you like the sound of." Well, the one I liked the sound of was half again as much as I had budgeted for that, and the ones that I could afford, they didn't sound so good. So I'm walking out the door thinking, okay, I'm going to save up my pennies, and the cashier calls out, "You can rent them." So I rented one, and my husband, a little bitty one, and my husband said, "Well, that's better anyway, because you don't know if you're going to like it." And I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure I'm going to like it. So I set up on the kitchen table, and I'm playing, and 2 weeks later I went and bought the one that I couldn't afford, and later traded it in on this one. So now I forgot where I am. Oh yeah, Celtic music. I'm going to play Danny Boy and switch it up a little bit to play a jig, and then a reel, Irish washerwoman, and then Rakes of Mallow. washerwoman rakes of mallet, in my head it's kind of a story. So what a picture is a washerwoman down at the river washing their clothes, and they get kind of tired, so they start taking a break and they dance around and they're having a good time. When who shows up but these scoundrels from Mallow, the rakes of Mallow, and they're always up to no good. So they start skipping rocks on the river, and they get closer and then closer and closer to the washerwoman until the women have just had enough, and they chase them down the road and out of the town. Irish washerwomen, rakes of Mallow. So we've been to Scotland, we've been to Europe, we've done a lot of things and a lot of traveling, but I'm going to bring it back to America. I wrote this arrangement, and it's called Moods of America, different styles and different moods and approaches to the song America. And I fully intended to play it at the competition, but you're only allowed 2.5 minutes per song, and it just got too long, and I couldn't find a good way to make it shorter. It never made sense. So this is the America that didn't get played at the competition, Moods of America. Now, I know in the Lutheran Church, you're not allowed to do Christmas songs until after Advent's all over with on December 24th. But we're not in church now. And these Christmas songs are just too lovely to play in just a couple weeks after Christmas. So I made it my goal a couple years ago not to get caught at the last minute trying to scramble and get some Christmas arrangements done. So I did one a month for about 6 or 7 months. And I'd like to play a few of them for you now. First is a little French carol known as Il est né, which we know as He is Born. Another very versatile song. I played this at the competition. I wrote the arrangement for Easter, Alleluia, Sing to Jesus. And as I'm practicing, I'm thinking, that's not the right words in my head. Turns out it's Come Thou Long Expected Jesus, which is the one that most people know it by. The hymn title is Hyphrodol, of all things. So come ye long expected Jesus. Next, one of my very favorite Christmas songs, Christmas arrangements. It's so much fun to play. As a matter of fact, it's so much fun to play. I play it in the Butterfly House all the time because there's one of the employees there that thinks it sounds, let's see, to me it sounds like the wind. To her it sounds like a waterfall. But another French carol, Sing We Now of Christmas. Just such fun to play. Next is another of my very favorite Christmas carols. And turns out people either love it or they hate it. So if you're in the camp of people that hate it, I'm really sorry. Carol of the Bells. was my favorite Christmas carol. It's probably this next one. And I did play it at the competition, not this year, but a couple years ago, in my flurry to make those arrangements. This was one of them. So it's written by Handel and famous, and it's joyful and it's fun, and again, you can do lots of variations on it. Joy to the world. So I knew I couldn't talk very much and get through the program in an hour, so I didn't talk very much, and I got 5 minutes left. So if you don't mind, I'm going to play another happy piece for you. This is when I'm preparing for the Celtic Festival. So at the festival, I also do a little bit of education about Celtic music and about how the dulcimer is used there. So this is a demonstration of jigs. And you know it's a jig because it goes jiggity, 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 jiggity. So it starts off with 2 minor jigs, Swallowtail jig and Morrison's jig, which are pretty popular and well known in the Celtic world. And it switches over to a major key, to one I never heard before, but it's really fun to play. And it's again in my happy music set, called Bellman's jig. And finishing up with, the name escapes me. It'll come to me. You ever have those moments? I know. Anyway, whatever the name is, it traveled over to the United States and became so popular in old-time circles. It was played on the charge at Custer's Last Stand. Little did he know, but that's the music that they played. Nope, can't think of it. So, this is the jig medley. for coming out today. Thank you for having me. This is just such fun, and it's delightful to see all these happy faces. Yes, ma'am?
Can you tell us what it's made of? We can't see what it is. Are you playing on metal?
So these are metal strings similar to steel guitar strings, but some of them are a little bit bigger and a little bit smaller. So this is, I forget what kind of wood, curly maple, I think. And it's got different wood on the outside and on the back, and it's braced on the inside because there's 500 pounds pressure on these strings going across. So there are two main bridges, treble bridge, bass bridge. This is extra bass. That's where I get all those low notes from. And should I need some really high notes, which of course I do, it goes all the way up to there. Any other questions? I'll be here afterward if you want to come up and take a closer look and ask any other questions.
Do the hammers always match? It looked like one was bigger than the other.
Oh, no. No, they're exactly the same. They're exactly the same. So there are different kinds of hammers, though, and again, this has leather on both sides. I have some that are wood, I have some that are acrylic, some that are little, some that are big, some that are heavy, some that are light. Everybody collects hammers because you're always looking for the perfect pair. Never get there yet. Thank you. So, okay, maybe I can hear you.
Did you have a teacher that taught you how to use it, or did you?
Oh, this is good. So I got it, and I had no idea. I never really heard anywhere except in St. Augustine. So when I bought the Dulcimer, I bought a book that says you can teach yourself to play hammer dulcimer. So it was me and the book in my basement for a couple years. And then I moved here, and somebody says, there's a really good teacher in Eureka, and that's Rick Thumb. So I studied with Rick Thumb for several years, and then he kicked me out of the nest and said, you got to go compete at Winfield, and I did. And I still go back to him if I need another ear to listen to. So that's the story of that. It's much easier if you have a teacher, trust me. Yes, sir.
Could you just tell us a little about the range or quality of these instruments and who makes them?
All instruments are handmade. There are no mass-produced instruments. Rick Thumb down in Eureka makes some very nice instruments. This particular one is a Masterworks brand that made down in Oklahoma. This was custom made for me. I got to pick all the colors and the woods and all the stuff. So that's fun. There are, let me think. There's some in Ohio. There are little pockets around the country of dulcimer makers. It's not an easy process, as you can tell by looking at it.
Over here. It's interesting that the bass strings are just opposite of the piano.
Tell me about it. I was a piano player for 50 years. It's backwards.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. That took a little while to get used to. Any other questions? Well, yes, ma'am.
And did I hear you say you didn't purchase this through Music Folk in Webster or not? Did I misunderstand?
I bought one there. I did buy one there,
Okay.
but I decided I needed a bigger one. And here it is.
That's wonderful.
I love those basses. Well, thank you guys for coming out. And again, I'll be right here if you have any other questions, if you want to take a close look at it.
I just want to say, I'll speak for myself, and I think for everyone here, I felt like you brought us a little bit of heaven today. Thank you. It's wonderful.